Okay, so you are here because you signed up for Raising Connected Kids, Friendship, and Screen Balance in Today's World, and we are so excited to have you. I can now not see the chat, I realize, because I'm sharing full screen. And so if you're typing things in the chat, you'll need to, you can type things. We can look at it after I stop screen sharing. So feel free to, if you have like a question or something comes up, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat. And then, but if you have something, if we're talking through something, maybe our volume sounds wonky or the screen looks wonky, just go ahead and come off mute. So that we can hear you and we know what's happening, since now I don't have access. So without further ado.
Mhm. Hello. So happy to have you all here. And I wanted to first thank you for taking your precious time away from 1,000 things that you probably have to be doing right now to listen to us talk about the importance of reducing screen time and increasing interpersonal communication through play, whether it's children or teens or adults. Um, so, a little bit about myself. My name is Molly Stuckey. I am a speech and language pathologist. I have about 25 years of experience in this field. I founded Coastal Speech Therapy in 2005, and then I successfully sold it about 5 years ago in 2020. And then I established Friendship Builders in 2022 to support children and teens and now adults who are struggling with social anxiety, impulsivity, social isolation, and fear post pandemic. So I developed these social skills groups inherently to help children and teens and adults transition from isolation to active peer engagement in a very supportive, nurturing, natural environment. So I am personally a mother of two teenage daughters, 16 and 19, and firsthand understand how difficult it is to raise a child, especially a child who has any sort of academic or social or cognitive challenges. So, from a parental and personal perspective, I understand difficult it is to navigate ADHD related challenges. So, my oldest daughter is now, she's almost 20 actually. She goes to Oregon State now, but she, as a child, faced significant difficulties with forming friendships and keeping those friendships. She had a really hard time with impulse control, executive functioning, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what executive functioning looks like. She had a lot of challenges with sensory processing, especially oral defensiveness with feeding, tags, seams on the socks, pulling her pants. So I've witnessed frequently quick emotional shifts. I mean, she would go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, especially in Target. It was always in Target in a social, kind of like social public place. Um, and so these outbursts really lasted throughout her childhood. Um, I recall feeling a tremendous amount of guilt and shame, um, and anxiety myself. I was always kind of anticipating like what her next unexpected challenge or impulsive behavior might look like. So I recognized the need for social skills classes, and just from my own parental perspective, based on my own experience, to help support these kiddos trying to improve their social interaction. So that's why I started Friendship Builders. And at Friendship Builders, we do share the benefits of social skills groups for children and adolescents and teens. And now we just introduced adults. And our goal is to provide our clients with specific tools to put in their toolbox or strategies to help children or teens build friendships, improve self regulation, cognitive flexibility, social awareness, and navigate through some pretty tough social dilemmas that we didn't have to experience when we were younger. And when children are really allowed to interact with other kiddos, like-minded, similar interests, with some similar social, emotional, developmental ages, it's quite amazing what can happen, and great friendships can be nurtured and explored. So it's really exciting.
And I'm Samantha Hayes. I have over 20 years of experience in education. I've worked as an educator, an administrator, adjunct faculty. I was a senior leader in higher education. And then I started noticing, and I use technology in my classrooms. Like, I'm going to tell you, Twitter was brand new out, and I was having my kids tweet because it was a great way for them to learn to summarize, right? Um, but it was different then. It wasn't, everybody was using technology at home crazily. And then we were also using it all day in the classroom. Like that, them tweeting took a minuscule amount of our day. Like we would read with it like a real piece of paper, right? We would read something and then we would use the technology to support it. And I started realizing probably, I don't know, 5 or so years ago that the tide had shifted. It had shifted. And I was looking around and seeing people out at dinner on devices, and there's no eye to eye contact. Like
Yeah.
everybody's staring at their phones.
Yeah.
Tantrums are becoming worse. Behaviors are becoming worse. And my husband and I had a long conversation with each other about it. Like, how do we keep our kids away from screens when everybody around them is on screens? And then I was sitting in a kindergarten classroom, and the parents were saying, I don't know how to get my kids off screens. Like, I want them to do something else, but I'm not sure what else to do. And that's kind of where all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can help. I can help because I'm super passionate about being present and building that connection, and not related to just the screen. So I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old who don't get very much screen time beyond movie night. And my daughter is like, you always say no to screens. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. But I started Beyond the Screen Families because of all of that. And we really help families create moments that stick. And that's by offering replacement activities and alternative activities so you can free up like that thinking space. Parenthood is hard, like, and we are going nonstop. And sometimes you just need somebody to like do that thinking piece for you.
Mhm.
That's what we do. That's what we're
Yeah,
here for.
that's amazing. So a little bit about some some areas that we want to target when your child's struggling with any of these um, areas. And these are just some, not all, but some of the areas that if you're looking at this slide and saying, aha, that's my child, then social skills groups may be beneficial to you. So children, teens, and adults managing impulses and social anxiety, like it's so pervasive that they don't want to go to birthday parties, or they don't know where to sit at the lunchroom table, or they're so worried about who they're going to play with at recess during class that they're not paying attention to the teacher, and it's negatively affecting the academic performance. um, Flexibility in behavior and regulating emotions. Do they go from 0 to 100? Are they able to label their emotions? I'm having a big feeling right now. Or flexible behavior, like, well, whatever, no big deal. Are they more easygoing and flexible, or are they more rigid and black and white in their thinking and their behavior? Children who have a hard time compromising and sharing, so it's their way or the highway. And if they don't get what they want, it's like a catastrophe, and you'll know it. And it's difficult to bring them down, kind of regulate their sensory system. They become very dysregulated. And sharing. They have a hard time trading or taking turns or even figuring out what to play with, what color they're going to be when they're playing Candyland, or how to even react if they don't win. That's a good sportsmanship is another target that we work on. Frustration tolerance. So I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling dysregulated. How can I tolerate that? And then calming strategies. When I'm in the red, how am I going to self regulate myself so I can de escalate myself by myself when no one else is there to help me? Um, and then problem solving. So we all have problems, right? We have 1,000 problems a day. Some may be able to handle those problems easier than others. Sometimes we have an internal locus of control, meaning I know that I have control over the situation, and therefore I can create multiple solutions to this problem, right? And if we have multiple solutions, not just one, our anxiety goes down. But then we have other people have an external locus of control, and that's like it's their fault. Blame game. They made me do it. My sister made me do it. My brother made me do it. And so we want to have like some sort of self awareness before self regulation, and perspective taking. So understanding that, we can look at someone else, the same situation through a different lens. And then along the same token, showing empathy. So if someone's having a bad day or they're, feeling sad, that we're showing kindness and empathy with even just listening. And I love the three H's. Do you want to hug? Do you want help? Or do you want me to hear you? And asking your child, giving them control, like, because we just assume that we should solve their problem, but maybe they just want to talk about it, or maybe they just need a hug. And then good sportsmanship. So understanding, who goes, how do we, rock, paper, scissors, or eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How do we decide who goes first? What do we say when we win? What do we say when we lose? We say, yes, I won, you're a loser. No, we can't say that. We have to say, like, oh, good game, or better luck next time. Um, and then recouping after rejection or setback. So by the time children and teens and even adults come see me, they have been rejected more times than I'm even like willing to admit. It's sad, and it's definitely affected their self-confidence and their self-esteem. So it's my job to give them tools so that they can know how to react when those rejections happen. And that's once you have those tools, then you're more equipped. I'm not saying they're going to use them, right? Because anxiety gets in the way, but at least they know what to say when those rejections happen. Understanding nonverbal, subtle behaviors and the emotions of others. I cannot overemphasize how important a nonverbal communication is to show your charisma, to show that you're a likable person. You walk in, eye contact, touching, handshaking, smiling is a big one. Even the way you say hello, you're going to say hi. We're going to say on the out breath, hello. To show that um, uh, you're a nice, kind human being, and you're authentic. And at this point, we all want real, authentic people, um, and we can judge that in an instant, even before you say hello. And then how to initiate and maintain friendships. So these are like icebreakers. Once you start the conversation, the two W's, we could talk about the weekend and the weather, or the importance of friend files. So remembering what someone said in the past. Oh, I went to Disneyland last weekend. Well, the next time you see them, you might say, hey, what was your favorite ride at Disneyland? So you're building those friend files to show interest by asking follow-up questions. Yeah. And then want to go.
And then like also on the screen side specifically, but that thinking that a screen is a need instead of a want, right? I need this, like that struggle that
Yeah.
comes with this is now part of my identity instead of something that I just want to have.
Yeah.
And kids, especially as they age, that they see it as a need versus a want. And then tantrums too, when screens are taken away. And it becomes this cyclical circle, right? Like you give them the screen because they're throwing a tantrum, they have it, it's time to take it away, and all of a sudden it's a tantrum again. And so all of those things are why we're here tonight.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to kind of bridge what you said is for other people in our lives to have reasonable expectations as far as our accessibility, even as adults,
Yes. Yes.
if it's an emergency or not. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So these are some basic skills that we want to work with. Thank you, in group therapy. So most parents, by the time they come see me, they're really super concerned about how their kiddo or teen, or if they're an adult, how themselves is performing, socially, academically. And then even if they're children, what is my child doing at recess? Are they alone? Um, who are they sitting with at lunch? And then these social skills therapy, it is clinically proven over time to improve children's self-esteem and self-confidence, creating lasting friendships, which then in turn definitely improve academic success going forward. And research has also clearly shown that providing an organic and natural social group environment with children or teens who have similar interests and social, emotional, and developmental levels can certainly improve their flexible thinking and their social awareness. So they can make and keep friends.
And I just saw them walk out of here tonight before I came in, and they
Yeah.
were all like chatty and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
super
it's the
fun.
real deal. It works.
Mhm.
So school age children really between the ages of most of the kids that I see are between the ages of like 7 and 10, just because think of the social emotional development 4 years ago, 5 years ago that we were expecting our 4 to 5 year olds to have. It was absent. It was just prevented. And so it's definitely affected our school age kiddos. So these are some of the I don't want to say goals because I'm definitely a results driven therapist, but it's different than like individual. If your child's ever had individual speech therapy, we don't design our program like, okay, this is a long-term goal. These are the 3 month short-term objectives. It's different. It's more gestalt, and we kind of work on these skills in real time depending on what the child's going through. So these are just some, not all, but some of the skills that we work on. So good sportsmanship and flexible thinking. Again, how to initiate, maintain, and terminate conversations. I can't tell you how many kiddos just walk out the door without saying, "Bye, have a good night." So we talk about that, and then how do they approach me? The salutations. How do they come in the room? We also work on that. Handshake versus high five versus hugs versus, waves. Personal space, we talk a lot about personal space, which differs in different cultures and different environments. In the American culture, we usually have one hand's length. In different cultures, it's much closer, but we talk about personal space. We don't want to be a space invader, and self regulation. We also don't want to be a kid cop, right, and police our peers. We want to allow adults, parents, and teachers to tell other kids what to do. Kids don't tell kids what to do. No kid wants to be told by another kiddo what to
Yeah,
do.
except my daughter thinks she should tell my son what to do.
Yeah, siblings are always off on that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then showing respect and working in a group environment. Your tone of voice. I have one client who always goes up an inflection at the end of his sentence. He says something like, "We're going to play Candyland," and I say, when you say it that way, poses as a question versus a statement. So we talk a lot about tone of voice having different meanings. Interrupting, blurting out. That's a big one. Hold that thought. Think it, don't say it. May I please interrupt? How do you interrupt? Placing your hand on your parent's leg to, show that you have something to say, waiting for them to finish the conversation. And then as a parent, you can take your hand and put it on your child so that you're aware, acknowledging them, and they know that they have to wait. How to react to unkind peers. Usually we say on the first try, we walk away. On the second, we have to say, meaning on the first, if the first insult, to injury, we walk away, and then the second, if it continues, we say, meaning tell someone. And then changing the channel on feelings. So we all have big feelings. We need to rate the size of the problem. Is it a humongous catastrophe problem, or is it a tiny problem? And then having realistic and reasonable reactions to the size of the problems. We talk a lot about that, and then how to change the channel. So a lot of that's just self-regulation. We'll get to that in a little bit. Empathy and understanding another person's perspective or point of view. So just because I may be fearful of cats, let's say, someone else might be happy to see a cat because they love cats, or another person might be sad if they see the same cat because their cat died. We can all have the same object or event and have just different perspectives, and not to judge those based on our background history. Social filter. So filter, we have a thinking bubble, and then we have a talking bubble, and it goes through our social filter, and not everything we think can go through our filter into our talking bubble. So that's when we talk about reading the room, and we talk about, would what I say insult or make someone else feel uncomfortable? So, and then compromising. Okay. And then these are for adolescents and teens. I mean, you're going to see a lot of these same skills transfer from, childhood to adolescents and teens. They kind of follow us through our life. They just may manifest in different social dilemmas. So again, good sportsmanship, conversations, personal space, showing respect, tone of voice, reacting to unkind peers. That's this brings up a good point because social media comes into reacting to unkind peers more than elementary age, because you could have like not be invited to a birthday party and you see it on social
Mhm.
media, or you could put a post up and someone says something mean about your post, like,
Mhm.
or you're constantly comparing yourself with other people, and so then there's this like, just I'm not good enough feeling, and this imposter syndrome
Mhm.
that's really pervasive in our culture. It makes me really concerned about anxiety and depression with adolescents and teens, and that's why it's so important. What Samantha's doing is trying to manage those, the duration and frequency of screen time. So yeah, so that's all, for adolescents and teens. The same, pretty much the same. The one thing I do want to talk about, though, one more thing about the difference between teens that I see is knowing how, at this point, how to feel comfortable even having a conversation, because they're like, oh, well, I play Roblox because I can talk to another person on
Mm.
online. And I'm like, well, how do you argue with that? And I said, well, okay, but can you have, are you having an actual conversation about like their day and in the same space? Or are you talking about the game? They're like, oh, we're gaming. So it's tough. I think that it's important to have a place where teens and adults can come together and share their day in real time.
Mhm.
Synchronous learning.
So, as she's like slowly alluding to, screen use can really subtly erode social development. And like it just creeps in and kind of takes over. I mean, think about like the social skill gap. If you're only talking and you're having that conversation through roadblocks, and you're talking in a different way than we would talk face to face. And so like that provides a gap, right? You have fewer of those face to face interactions. Instead, you're like on your phone and you're just texting someone. You don't learn all the nuances of facial expression. And so you're reading other people's messages perhaps, and you don't understand tone, you don't understand all of those things. Um, or you don't understand, like when we get littler, if you're on screens littler, turn taking, just the idea of turn taking. If you have a personalized device, there's a lack of understanding with how do I take turns, because I get to do everything I want in this little tiny device.
Mhm.
um and then those little tiny moments, they matter, right? I have someone who I know who has beautifully coined it the micro moments, and I'm sticking with it. But it's the eye contact, it's the shared laughter that you have. You're not getting that when you have the screen, so that's kind of like going away. The facial cues. And then there's the huge dopamine disconnect, right? Yes, we're getting dopamine from the screen and it's rapid pace and it's feedback, but it's not the same kind of release that you get from the person to person
The
connection.
oxytocin.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's totally different. And it is, this dopamine is more delayed long term versus the screen dopamine, which is rapid fire. It's gone when the screen's gone, right?
Mhm.
So I just want to say it's not about taking screens away. Like screens are here to stay. That's not what I'm advocating for. It's about balance. And
Mhm.
how do we balance screen use, quality screen reuse, that doesn't inhibit all of the social aspects that are so necessary for kids to be highly functioning individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I want to carry over with Samantha had mentioned about the neurotransmitters. So when we are providing eye contact, when we're providing touch, when we're sharing space, that increases the possibility of joy,
Mhm.
of laughter, of happiness. And I think that we've forgotten how to do that. And
Mhm.
that's why we're all walking around like with this cloud and we're all
Mhm.
stressed out and depressed. Um, because it does release those neurotransmitters like
Mhm.
the oxytocin, the endorphins, the serotonin, and the
Mhm.
dopamine,
Yep.
just interpersonal communication.
Yep.
But yeah. So, how can we respond to challenging behaviors? when our child goes from 0 to 100 seconds, we as parents need to stay regulated. And I'm breathing on purpose. Smell the flowers, blow out the candles because it's like PTSD for me. I remember this. So many times I remember feeling hot in the face, and I it would stress me out so much when my kids would scream that I did a lot of research on this. Okay, so plan A. So plan A, we all have choices as parents, right? We have a choice of what type of parent we want to be. So impose your will and with rewards and consequences. This is, I call it the 1950 approach. This is how I was raised. And so that's plan A. And then plan B is collaborative problem solving. So plan B is I'm going to listen to what you have to say, and I'm going without judgment, and I'm just going to totally listen, and I'm just going to provide ask if you want help. Do you want some help? And then depending on what you say, okay, we could look at it from different perspectives. We could do think of it this way or that way. Plan C is strategically solving the problem with your child. So, what we want to do, what that means is look at the problem like ABC. So antecedent behavior consequences, the old way, but this is the new way. So we want to list out the problems and then the different situations in which those problems are occurring. And like, hey, when this happens, what are you doing about it?
Mhm.
And most importantly, how is that affecting what other people are thinking about you? We all want people to have good thoughts and feelings about us. So we need to have that social expectation of behaving a certain way with expected behaviors. So ABC, so adults concern, and then the child's concern, and then B is both sets of concerns. You get it? A, B, C. So we need to regulate the child first because they're not going to listen to anything you have to say if they're in a temper tantrum. Forget it. You might as well just like give yourself a mommy or daddy timeout, lock yourself in the bathroom, and be like, when you calm down, then you get my attention. Easier said than done, but I've done it. As long as they're safe, obviously. But we need to regulate the kiddo using chill skills before we can even think about regulating and reasoning with them. Think about yourself when you're in a state of stress. It's like fight, flight, freeze. You, the last thing you're thinking about is reasonable reactions and how to reason. So once we have that, then we can regulate their sensory system and then relate to them personally. Or like, oh, I remember when I used to feel like that when I was your age. Gosh, that was a bummer. That was really tough. That must be really hard for you. I get it. I totally remember feeling that way. These are some different ways you can handle that next time. And then reason with them. How did that work out for you? So you reacted that way. Remember, when they're calm um, and they're cozy and they feel safe, usually in their bedroom, in their bed, how did that work for you? You know, what could you maybe do next time? And then dysregulation is super duper contagious. So when our kids are dysregulated, we're dysregulated. So just remember that. You have to be the model. And it's hard to do that. But it starts with empathy, and then that empathy leads to co-regulation. So this is just some more detailed descriptions about kind of what I just mentioned. Lead with empathy, understanding that the child's perspective is important and you're here to listen. I say a lot to my, because I have teens, right? 16 and 19. I'm lucky if I get them for like 5 seconds. Seriously, it's like, oh, can I just give them 5 seconds? So when I do, I'm like, when you want to talk to me, I'm here. I'm not like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? What's wrong? Oh my gosh, tell me what's wrong. Are you stressed out and try to solve their problem? Because it's not my problem to solve. Like, I can't control their emotions, but I can be there for them when they want to talk about it. So empathy is super duper calming and self-regulating. You have to lean in with your body, with your eyes, put your phone down. And you could say something like, I see you're feeling upset, or you have some big feelings right now. I'm here to help you out. Let's take some deep breaths together and we're going to figure it out together. And we want to gather as much information as we can about what happened by asking questions. And take some educated guesses, like, their friends' names by this usually. Did Johnny do this? Did this happen? And then recast and retell. So what I think I hear you saying is, and validate what you think you heard, because chances are you didn't hear what they were trying to say. And then just say, did I get that right? So again, what I think I hear you saying is, and then repeat what you thought you heard, and then did I get that right? It will really help them feel very heard and validated. And then use regulating tools. So reflective listening and reassurance. That means lean into the emotion, validate their feelings. Like, for example, I know there must be an important reason that you didn't get invited to Sally's birthday party, or I know there must be an important reason that you went to the principal's office today. Let's talk more about that so they don't feel shame. Children feel shame like that because children want to please their parents and they want to be liked. So we want to mitigate the shame and increase the empathy and listening. Problem solve together. So you could say, let me understand where you're coming from. I hear you and I understand your feelings. And this must be really, really tough for you. And just use that as a mantra, like over and over, because when you're in the moment, you're not going to remember to say all this stuff, right? But again, let me understand where you're coming from. I hear you and understand your perspective, your feelings, whatever you want to say. This must be really hard. I'm here to help. And then you could talk and share. So let's talk about your side of the story. There's two sides of the story, and then there's the truth. And then you could say, like, I'll share my concerns and we're going to figure it out together. We'll figure out a plan together. Sorry. No, you're good.
Where did it go?
I have mine too.
There we
Yeah,
go.
you're fine. You gotta love technology. So fun. And then you can say, I'll share my concerns. We'll figure out a plan together. And this is my favorite one. I use it all the time. It works really, really well for your teens. You can say, I'm here for you when you're ready to talk. And you'll be surprised. They'll show up at the most random times.
At 10 o'clock at night.
At 3 in the morning. Yeah. And then I love this visual. It's the circle of communication. It's having a relationship with someone. It's a two-way street. It takes two hands to clap. It takes 2 feet to dance. We have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And it's better to be interested than interesting. I love these little sayings, but basically show more interest in other people than you're talking about yourself. Keep it short and simple. But this kind of is a good slide visual of so we start with a question. Let's say my favorite question is, what was your high and low today? Or best and worst. What do you call it in your family?
Favorite and least favorite.
Favorite and least favorite. Love that. Or what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Whatever. What's the silliest thing that happened to you today? So whatever it is, you could use like a talking stick at the dinner table. In our group, we use a microphone so that whoever has a microphone, that's their talking turn. Everyone else is their listening turn. That also helps with interrupting, especially with siblings. And so we listen to what someone's saying, and then a light bulb goes off. We have thoughts and feelings and opinions about what that person's talking about, but we're not going to think about what we want to talk about. We're still thinking about what they're saying. And then we have comments. Wow, cool. That's awesome. Way to go. Passing the floor. So you're going to ask that partner the same question back that they asked you. So, and it's so funny now that I teach this, when people don't do it to me automatically, I'm like, why aren't they asking me the same question I'm asking them? I'm like, don't therapize them. It's not therapy. But it's just natural and automatic for me now. And then you would expect the same question to be asked. And then you finish the circle of communication. The most important part of this slide is the top. It's called bridging topics, bridging statements. It's how to bridge one topic of conversation to another topic of how to maintain the flow. If you have a different thought in your brain, you could say, oh, by the way, or that reminds me of, or speaking of, or on another subject, or hey, I've been thinking about something, so we don't want to just blurt out with another topic. Those are just some specifics. And then we talk a lot about zone. We're through the 25 years of doing this, I have had the pleasure of working with so many occupational therapists, and I'm very well versed in sensory processing disorder and knowing it's not just the behavior, but it's the why. There's always a why under the behavior. It's never the behavior. There's always a reason why someone's acting or saying something. So it's our job as speech and language pathologists to understand the why behind the what. So I have these visuals out like, hey, what zone are you in? Are you in the red zone? Are you in the blue zone? How do we go? How can I help you? Or do you want help going from the red zone to the green zone? Because we always want to be in the green zone. We always want to feel happy and calm and feeling okay and pretty chill. So, what are we going to do to get those chill skills back? So, these are called zones of regulation. It also helps with self awareness.
Okay, so let's talk about screen balance so you can also support all of that. One thing that I talk about all the time is intentionality, right? It's not necessarily about the hours or how much screen time, or remember balance. It's all about balance and intentionality. Screens can be used for a lot of things that are very good in purpose, right? But it's, are we intentionally using them, or are we doom scrolling for 3 hours? I don't know. But really focusing in on that. You are your child's best teacher. And I know I'm guilty of this at some points too, where it's like, I just need to answer this one more email, or this person texted, or this, or this, or this. And we can get caught off to the point where like your kids are trying to interact with you
Mhm.
and you're showing them that the screen is more important, and then they're understanding that too, and then that's what they're going to do, right? And so it's just being conscious of that. Remember, none of us are perfect. We all mess up. We all sometimes spend more time than others on the screen. But it just thinking about how can you model those healthy boundaries. For me, that means like when my kids come home from school, I set my phone in a completely different room. Now, it drives my husband insane if he tries to call me because it's also on silent, but it's my one way to be like, shut that part off and focus on what's really important right now. It's the few hours before my kids have to go to bed, right? Um, and I would suggest you just think about for balance, like if looking at your week, I'm a week planner. So for me, like we have screen time on, we have a family movie night on Friday night and we do some cartoons. My kids are little, like that's where we're at right now. But if that's too much, just think of it from day to day, like, okay, we're all going to put our screens away at dinner time.
Mhm.
That's what we're doing today. That's how we're going to balance. That's what we're going to do. Because when we balance, our home is calmer. We are more connected to the people beside us. It's easier
Mhm.
to interact and have those social skills modeled because we're all doing it, right? We're all a part of it instead of staring at the screen.
Mhm. And that brings up like manners and etiquette as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah.
What is phone etiquette?
Yes. Yes. And what does it mean for your family? Like,
Mhm.
yes. So I love talking about screen swaps. Because if you say to a child, I'm going to take your screen away, you are going to get the biggest tantrum on the planet. Nobody likes to have things taken away. We don't like it. Like if I'm like, I'm going to take your phone away, it's like, no, 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 you're not. And so it's all about how do we change that idea? So it's not about taking it away, it's about connection, or it's about a replacement of some sort. So that kids, instead of being like, we're getting rid of this, now you're saying, well, instead of playing Roblox, what if we did X? Three things that I always say are important for replacement activities. And that's they have to engage the same reward system. So think about your kid. If they're playing Roblox and that's all they want to do, what is rewarding them in that? Is it the challenge of like building stuff and like connecting and all of that? Okay, well, what's a good non-screen alternative? You can do a build challenge in your house with real life stuff, Picasso tiles, Legos, cardboard boxes, right?
Magnetiles.
Magnetiles. Yeah, all of those things are, you can get that connection moment, that face to face interaction. You make it a mutual thing, or they build and then they've got to come show it to you, any of those things, but engaging the same reward system. The other thing is like, what is the emotional or social gap that's going to happen if you take it away? For teens and tweens, the phone is their identity. It is part of their identity because it is a personalized world, even for adults, right? It's
Mhm.
the only place we get a world that caters to us.
Mhm.
All the social algorithms, everything is catering to you.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a part of your identity.
And we're in
So,
control.
yes, we're in control. So when you're replacing, how can you institute those same things in control? Maybe they really love mastering things because of, what they're doing, or maybe it's they just want to connect. They're on social sites to connect. It's just not the same connection, right? So this connection is going to be more rewarding and rich. So how do we give that to them? And then it's accessible, right? Nothing works if it's not accessible. So make sure that it's something that they can do, that it can just sit out, that, like you can,
Mhm.
it's not going to take you 12 hours to plan to offer the replacement activity. Um, and I would also say, like, anything you can do as a family as a replacement activity, your kids, no matter what their age, may grumble at some point to be like, "Nah, I don't want to do that." Just do it. Like,
Mhm.
they will end up
Force
loving it.
them to do it.
Game night, there'll be so much laughter. There might be some grumbling initially, but there'll be so much after that it doesn't feel forced. All of a sudden, it's joyful.
Mhm.
Um, so a few quick wins, because I know we are not like running longer than we originally wanted. We wanted to open questions already 3 minutes ago, but a few quick wins for you is pick one thing. One thing. That's what I always say. Pick one thing. You don't
Mhm.
have to like swap out your whole life. Pick one thing and make that the connection window. Dinner time is our favorite, where we all sit down and we eat dinner, but maybe that's not what your family has the ability to do. So just one thing. Maybe start putting devices, they aren't allowed in bedrooms. Blue screens before nighttime are super bad
Mm.
on the brain. It's like, I believe it's 1 hour blue screen before is like drinking a cup of coffee before going to bed. That is what it's doing to your brain. So, like, it's just lighting it up. And then we wonder why we can't sleep.
Mhm.
And then the other quick win is just a 15-minute tech swap. Start with 15 minutes. You don't have to be like, we're taking this away, or we're gonna go on an hour-long walk, right? I don't know. One 15-minute little tiny thing can make a huge difference. And then pretty soon it's not 15 minutes. Then it's 20, and then it's 30. And then pretty soon the device isn't a need. The real connection is what's desired.
Mhm. So there's some great points. Very impressive. Two more to prevent interrupting, blurting out, and especially when we're on the phone. I encourage parents to teach their kiddos to hold either if they're tall enough their shoulder or their leg. And then you want to demonstrate, then you let's see
I
if they
don't know.
can see it. So let's say you put so you're the kid and
Okay.
I'm
Uh-huh.
the parent. So I know you want my attention, right? But I'm talking to them. Yeah, so social skills is so great. I love social skills. It's so awesome. Yeah, it's great. Your kid's going to have so many friends. Guess what you do? I'm the parent. You're validating this, right? They're getting your physical touch, but you're still staying focused with either on the phone or with your friend. And then when you're done, then you say, "I see you want to have something to say." So there's that. That's kind of it takes a lot of practice.
This is the tip I need in my own house.
It takes a lot of practice. And modeling like with your significant other or someone else works really well. It's harder to say it, it's easier to show it.
Mhm.
And then model flexible language. All like even in yourself. And the like, oh, it's totally fine. I got fired from my job today. No, I'm just kidding. But like that, I'm just kidding. But I mean, whatever. Maybe next time, first we'll do it your way, then my way. Or yeah, you could just that can go on and on. But and then the final thing is using a talking stick at the dinner tables to talk about high and low or whatever. So you pass the talking stick around, and you can come up with different topic starters. Like I don't know, what's your favorite, or what did you have for breakfast this morning, or how did you like lunch, or did anything like that.
Mhm.
So yeah,
So, next steps.
yes. So you can always sign up for one of our social skills groups at Friendship Builders. We have groups for anyone from ages 5 to 40 because we're not offering Saturday adult groups. And you would just go on my website at friendshipbuilders.org or my Instagram at friendship builders, and can always also just call. And yeah, that's how we could set
We'll
that up.
share the deck with all of
Yeah.
you. I will drop after we stop sharing, I'll drop the links in the chat too, so you have them. The other thing is thinking about replacement activities. That's what we can help with. We have an essentials pack which provides you the activities like this one right here. They're designed by age. And so you get the activity, it tells you what you need. It's always things that you already have. It's not like you have to go out and buy a million things. It tells you why it's good for kids. It gives you alternatives, like it gives you the base activities and then alternatives because kids thrive of all ages. Kids of all ages thrive when you have a base activity that builds, right? It just like spirals for them and then it builds their confidence and their success and their understanding of themselves. And it also always comes with reflection questions and tips for success to make it work. There's also theme packs if your like child is really into engineering. There's like an engineering pack. And then if you're like, that's too intense for me, there's things like this, which is a box. It
Like Vanna
comes,
White here.
yes, as we're trying to share it, and I'll put it down so I can share.
It's
It
really
comes
neat.
with a whole bunch of craft supplies, but then it also comes with just prompt cards because the whole thing is about building self-confidence, about building creativity and curiosity. And so, for example, like this one says build a bug. This is the younger kid box. But then your child would build whatever kind of bug they want based on what they have in the box. Or maybe then they're like, hey, we have that egg carton. Can I go use that? So there's that too. And there is how you can find us both. I am going to stop the recording so that then we can open it up for questions and we can also see